Time for the Tesla and Palantir weekly update. Also going to include Coinbase and a few other stocks as well before we finish this video. So let's start off with Tesla here on the monthly chart. And the reason why we're starting on the monthly chart today is because there are 6 days left into the month. And after that, we're going to get another monthly candle close. And this could be the second month in a row that it closes above the previous 2021 all-time high. So this is a very important development because this has never happened before, right? It tried right here back in January and December, but it failed, right? That failure caused it to plunge all the way back down to the 200s, the low 200s, before recovering back up. So this is a very bullish development, and I think it's the most important development that we're seeing on this chart because this ultimately is the biggest previous resistance zone, now currently flipping to support. So if anything, just take away 414.50. That number is important. I've been telling you that 415 zone has been important for a long time. This is why, right? This is exactly why we've never seen price do this before. And even after earnings, you saw it just go down to 414 and just find stability right there and then just shoot back up. So who cares what price did yesterday? It doesn't really matter. What matters the most is this is a very, very bullish behavior for something flipping from a previous resistance to a support. And also, this is log scale, by the way. On linear scale, I want to show you a different fib too, from the more recent high back in December of last year to the low down here. And we can see that this is the 429.84 that I've been talking about also for the past couple of weeks. And actually price is stabilizing above that as well, right? We can see there's only maybe one weekly candle basically that closed below, but the remainder have been closing above that level as well. So perhaps we can just continue to build a base next week and the week after to just get ready to go higher, right? So we don't even maybe have to watch that 415 zone anymore. Perhaps we can just watch this 429.84 zone and maybe get a little bit more liquidity below it again next week before trying to go higher. But if you're looking for a breakout into all-time highs, what is necessary? It's going to be basically this log scale 444.72, right? Log scale. That is the log scale 886 from the same time period. And I really am watching this for a breakout. So we tried last week and the week before and the week before that. So actually, there's never been a weekly candle close above that 444.72. So this is what I'm watching the most. Close above that. Then we'll start talking about 488.54. And then after all-time highs, then we can talk about the 600s and the 800s and everything above. And next we have Palantir, and of course Palantir, I always am going to show you this log scale fib from the 2021 high to the 22 low. And of course it's still building a base nicely on top of that 1.618 fib. So in essence, what we're just going to pay attention to is like this is a very bullish structure, right? Because price continues to close weekly candles above that 157.62. And that's going to lead to the 200s eventually. But what is stopping it from right now? Well, that is on my other log scale chart from the more recent high in February and the low in April. We can see it's this 1.618 right here. So this is another 1.618 that's actually acting as resistance, which is 186.27. And in fact, there's only been one weekly candle close above it, but that was just barely above. Then it just went back to retest levels below. And the level that it really retested was the 149.26. So that 186.27 is a powerful resistance. And it's gotten rejected now almost every single week since back in September, right? Since it broke out again, it is unable to break above. But I think it was just waiting for enough time. And what happened this week was this green angle finally got hit. It finally got back tested right here. And that was the first back test since it broke out back in April, right? This April breakout, it never touched that angle once, but it finally did that this week. So if we're looking at that, we can say, okay, maybe that's a bullish development because now maybe it has enough time has passed now to break above that 186.27. And if so, then we can finally start talking about the 200s above. And then the next high time frame resistance after that is really going to be the 250s, right? Maybe 270s, maybe 280s above. This is a very bullish chart, and I think we're just waiting for maybe a few more weeks perhaps before ready to break out. So that's what I'm watching, 186.27. Hold that. Next week, the angle below is right around 175. It's not really guaranteed to get there. We also can put on that Ichimoku cloud too. The conversion line, the blue line down there, that's at 168.12. So that is our support zone still, right? That 168.12 up to maybe around 178, 176, right? Just keep stabilizing in that zone. And then in the weeks to come, it should be able to break above that 186.27 and go to the 200s. And next we have Coinbase. And Coinbase, I do want to show this chart because it is doing something very, very nice. I did talk about it last week as well. I've been talking about that 318.95 consistently over the past months now, because this is turning into a previous resistance, flipping to support. So that 318.95 held. Even this week again, it got liquidity below it at the 310. What did it hit the low this week? 310.48. Well, what is that level actually? Well, you go to linear scale. Guess what? That 310.94 is the 702 on linear scale. So even that was a support zone in itself as well. So this is bullish, right? We can switch to a monthly view as well, and we can see that price is actually closing the most monthly candles above that 886 ever, right? And it's kind of like Tesla in the same regard, right? It never really could close above before. Back in December and November of last year, it failed to close monthly candles above. But this time we're closing 1, 2, not this one, 3, but almost 4, right? And there's 6 days left until the monthly candle close. So that's going to be the most monthly candle close of building a base on top of this 886 ever, right? So extremely bullish chart. And going back to the weekly chart, we can also put on the conversion line of the Ichimoku. And I want to show you that because what else happened this week was really bullish too. And it got above that conversion line at 347.36. So not many people were talking about it, but it happened, right? So it did close below last week, and this week it did just go back down and wick below even that baseline too. Finally, that baseline got touched again for the first time since September. So we got the breakout, we got another back test. Looks like it's a successful one. So the support that I'm watching for next week is really just going to be 347.36. And if successful, I think all-time highs are going to happen. Maybe even this year, right? Maybe this year, maybe in the weeks to come. And then after all-time highs, we can really, really start talking about fib extensions above in the 800s and beyond. And next I want to talk about is Robinhood, and Robinhood had a very, very nice weekly candle recovery as well. We can go back to this fib from the 2021 top and the 2022 bottom, and we can see that price is getting really, really close to the log scale 1.272 at 168.89. So that is our resistance point on the high time frame right now. But a lot of people are speculating, oh, does it need to come back down to the 85 and just touch that before going higher? Well, if it already had so many chances to do that, but it did not. And I think the reason why lies on linear scale. So we can just switch that and just see what really is happening. And in fact, it is the 1.618 at 133.32 on linear scale. So this was a breakout, got liquidity below it, almost even touched the 117. But I think if you're looking at why price is not retracing is because when you use linear scale, it's holding the 1.618. So I think that was our floor. Any liquidity grab below it was an opportunity to accumulate. It didn't matter if it was 129, 128, 125. That was the zone, right? That was the zone for more accumulation because it wanted to prove to us that this is support. And sure enough, with this weekly candle close recovery, it did in fact prove that to us. And I think what I was waiting for too is when you add on the Ichimoku conversion line, it was just waiting to retest that, right? So we did get that retest this week as well. Last week, it kind of missed it, right? It didn't really touch it, but this week it did nail it at 124.76. So it hit that support, got liquidity below it, and it bounced. So a beautiful recovery for a Robinhood, and I think it's almost ready to continue higher. We are going to switch to the log scale view with my GAN next, and this one is telling a story too that it really just wants to establish a nice base on top of these arcs, on top of this 1.618 fib that I have here. And this fib is from the more recent high, the February high to the April low. And the next level here is really going to be 165, 166, 165, and then after that 188. So there's a lot of confluence coming soon of that 166 up towards this log scale 168.89. So I think the 160s are coming. I think what we're going to see now is that 133, 127 support zone hold for the potential to go higher in the weeks to come. So yeah, my next high time frame target is going to be around that 166, 168 zone. So this is looking like it wants to be a $200 stock in the future as well, but it still has a little bit more levels to break to get there. And next I have IREN here, and IREN, I just want to show you this log-based fib from the 2021 top, 2022 bottom. This is the 1.272. It's been getting rejected there for the past few weeks now. In fact, it didn't even get up there this week because it went down to retest lower levels. And when we switch to logs, or when we switch to linear scale, we can actually see what really happened a little bit better, right? We can see that the linear scale fibs are telling us a different story, how price just went up to the 72.31 and went right back down to the 62.89, and it almost even retested the 1.618 at 45.08, but it didn't quite get there because of the Ichimoku conversion line right here, and I think that was the reason why it kind of stopped there. That's right around 47.45, but ultimately it did close above the 62.89 by 1 penny. It closed at 62.90. But does that mean it's going to be a support now? Well, maybe not, because it tried the last couple of weeks, and this is the only weekly candle that barely closed above. And when something just barely closes above something, you can't really confirm it as a support yet. And I think we get more clarity when we switch to the log scale GAN over here, because this is really just telling the range, right? These arcs are saying the current range. Since it broke into the bottom arc, this was in early October, right? Broke into the bottom arc, and then it went to the resistance to the 1.272 that I talked about before, even wicked above, but the arc was also there as resistance. But now we're just watching this arc as a support. So we're basically in this little arc maybe for a little bit longer, maybe a little bit longer consolidation until ready to break out. So the bottom of that arc next week is around 57.20s. That's really what I will be watching for support. For next week, I think the 57s has a great opportunity to stabilize in that zone. If successful, we are going to just maybe spend a little bit more time in that zone until it's ready to break out. But once this 69.72 does get broken, we are going to talk about the 111 up top. That's the next level. And then after that, maybe even 200s above. So it's a very extremely bullish chart. And I did warn of resistance before. But now that it's already been consolidating, I think this does not really need to go too much lower. I think it can spend some time in these arcs, as much time as it wants, really, until it's ready to go higher. So very bullish chart, but it already had a massive move, so it could be time to cool off in between the 69 and the 57 zone until ready to break out. And lastly, I want to include AMD in today's analysis, and I want to show you what happened this week. Not only was it the highest weekly candle close ever, but it's also getting closer and closer to breaking above this 259.66. This is the 1.414 from the 2021 top and the 2022 bottom. So it finally got a couple of weekly candle closes above that, and it looks like it's in a new zone, right? A couple weeks ago, it failed to break above that 222, but last week and the week before, we finally closed above that 222.01. So if we're going to be looking at anything on this chart, it's really going to be just finding stability now above 222 for that potential to go higher. Why? Because it's a previous resistance right here and flipping to support. So if we want a further breakout, then 259.66 has to get broken. Then after that, we can start talking about 325 and maybe even above. So yes, this is an extremely bullish chart, and I think there's going to be a lot of continuation higher. And I do have another fib I really want to show you from before. It's a really interesting one too. If we go to a monthly view, and we can go back all the way in time here, and we can go and take a look at this fib. Right, I chose the fib from the 1984 top to the 1975 bottom, because I wanted to show what price was actually doing the whole time since the 80s, right? The whole time since the 80s, it was really struggling to break this $20 level, right? The whole time, and it just was stuck. $20 down to $2. That was basically the range. Even some liquidity grabs up to the 40s too, but that was essentially the range for decades. For decades, it was just stuck in that range. And then finally, one time it broke out and then it made all-time highs. And then it was kind of stuck in between these two fibs for a while. And it was stuck in between those two fibs basically since the early 2020s, right? Once it broke out, 2021, it kind of did a V bottom, but then it found stability back in April of this year. And we can zoom in now and look what price is finally doing. It's finally going above that 237.71. So these fibs are very, very interesting to watch because they really tell a story. And right now, this story is showing levels that have never been broken before or even touched before is finally happening. So this is very important, right? And in fact, this 237.71, I'm watching that the most because it would be interesting to close this monthly candle above in 6 days. So can we do it? Let's find out. But at least for AMD, what I'm watching the most is 222.01. Stay above that. It's going to break that 259.66 and go higher. But it would be interesting to get a monthly candle close above this 237.71 because if so, then a lot higher is there. And even this 1.618 up there it becomes possible, which is at 794.02. So extremely bullish. We're just waiting for a little bit more resistance to break, and that's the 259.66 in order to go higher.